You got everything you wanted. Not everything, but enough. Enough that when you try to explain why you still feel like something is missing, people look at you like you are being difficult, like you are choosing to feel this way, like gratitude is a switch you just need to flip. And the worst part is you almost believe them. You almost convince yourself that this feeling is a flaw in you rather than information about your life. But it is not a flaw, and you are not difficult. And the reason you feel empty despite having a life that looks completely fine from the outside is something so specific and so important that once you understand it, you will never unsee it. Here is something I think about a lot. There is a very specific kind of tired that has nothing to do with sleep. You can get 8 hours and wake up feeling it. You can go on holiday and bring it with you. You can have a genuinely good day and still feel it sitting there quietly in the background like a hum you have learned to ignore. It is not sadness exactly. It is more like distance. Like you are there, but not quite there. Like you are watching your own life from slightly outside of it. Going through the motions. Saying the right things. Showing up where you are supposed to show up. But somewhere underneath all of that performance, there is a person who has not been genuinely present in a very long time. And they are exhausted from pretending. Most people do not talk about this. Not because they do not feel it. Because they do not know how to explain it without sounding ungrateful. Without sounding like they are complaining about a life that other people would genuinely be grateful for. So they keep it quiet. They scroll instead of sitting with it. They stay busy instead of getting still. They fill every available second with noise because the silence is where the feeling gets loudest. And they carry it alone. For years sometimes. Wondering in their quietest moments if this is just what life is. If the aliveness they remember feeling at some point, that sense of actually being in their own life instead of just moving through it, was just youth. Just naivety. Just something that gets lost when you grow up and become responsible. It is not. And I need you to hear that clearly before we go any further. That aliveness was not a phase. What happened to it is a story worth understanding. Think about who you were before you became who you are now. Not a younger version, just an earlier one. Before the job that made sense. Before the relationship that was the logical next step. Before you learned to answer the question, how are you with fine thanks, without even pausing to check if that was true. There was a version of you that wanted specific things. Not the things on the list everyone gets handed. Stability, security, success. Real things. Particular things. Things that were yours and nobody else's. Somewhere along the way that version of you got quieter. Not because anything terrible happened necessarily. Just because life kept presenting practical choices and you kept making them. Because wanting things that did not fit the plan started to feel irresponsible. Because the people around you had expectations, and meeting those expectations was easier than explaining why you needed something different. Because at a certain point the practical version of yourself took over so completely that you forgot the other one existed. And now you are living in a life that was built by the practical version of you. For the practical version of you. And the real version. The one with the actual desires and the actual feelings and the actual sense of what would make them feel alive, is sitting somewhere underneath all of it wondering when they get to come back. That is what the emptiness is. It is not depression. It is not ingratitude. It is not a chemical imbalance or a character flaw or evidence that you are fundamentally broken. It is the feeling of being a stranger in your own life. Of having built something that works perfectly on paper and fits almost not at all on the inside. And the reason it is so hard to fix is that nobody around you can see it. The life looks fine. The life looks good even. So when the feeling comes, there is nobody to point it out to. No obvious problem to solve. Just this quiet, persistent sense that something real has been missing for a. Here is where it gets uncomfortable. Because I want to talk about the thing people do instead of dealing with this. The thing almost everyone does. They get busier. They fill the schedule so completely that there is no room left for the feeling to breathe. They pick up their phone before they are fully awake in the morning because 30 seconds of silence is enough for the feeling to surface, and they have learned unconsciously to prevent that from happening. They plan future things, holidays, goals, milestones, and live in the anticipation of those things because anticipation at least feels like something. They help everyone else because being needed feels like purpose even when it is just a distraction from the question they are not asking themselves. And none of this is weakness. I want to be really clear about that. This is what intelligent, thoughtful people do when they are carrying something they do not have the language for yet. They manage it. They cope. They function. They just stop living. And the saddest part of all of it is that the longer this goes on, the more normal it starts to feel. The distance becomes the baseline. The numbness stops feeling like numbness and just starts feeling like adulthood. You forget that you were not always this way. You forget that there was a time when you felt things fully rather than from behind glass. And when someone asks you what you actually want, not what makes sense, not what is responsible, just what you actually want, you realize you genuinely do not know anymore. Not because the answer is not there, because you stopped listening for it so long ago that you lost the ability to hear it. So what actually changes this? And I am going to be honest with you here because you deserve honesty more than you deserve comfort. It does not change with a list. It does not change with a morning routine or a gratitude journal or a weekend away. Those things might help temporarily, but they do not touch the root of it. What actually starts to shift this is something much simpler and much harder than any of that. It is getting quiet, really quiet, and asking yourself, not what should I want, not what makes sense, not what would other people think, just what is actually true for me right now. What do I actually feel when I stop managing it? What do I actually want when I stop editing it for other people's comfort? What would I do with my one life if I stopped being so afraid of disappointing everyone who has an opinion about it? Most people have not asked themselves those questions honestly in years. Some people have never asked them at all. And the answers when they come are not always convenient. They do not always fit the life that has already been built. But they are real. And real is the thing that has been missing. Not more success. Not more achievement. Not more of the things on the list. Just something real. Something that is actually yours. That is where the feeling starts to shift. Not overnight. Not dramatically. Just slowly. Like a window being opened in a room that has been closed for a very long time. You are not broken. You are not ungrateful. You are not too sensitive or too difficult or asking for too much. You are just someone who has been living a performance of a life for so long that you forgot what it felt like to actually be in one. And the fact that the feeling is still there, the fact that you have not completely made peace with it or numbed it out entirely, means that the real version of you is still knocking, still waiting, still convinced that something more honest is possible for you. Listen to it. Not tomorrow. Not when things calm down. Now. Because the life you are waiting to finally feel like yours will not arrive on its own. You have to go and find it. And that starts with being honest enough to admit that the one you have right now is not it. If this said something you needed to hear today, drop a comment and just say I felt this. Because you will not be the only one. And subscribe because next week we are going somewhere just as honest. I will see you there.